Greetings and God bless. I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was interesting because they were talking about their experience with um, growing up in a fundamentalist, in a certain religious group, and having grown up in this very patriarchal group. They it seemed to me that they took some steps to be what they think is the opposite of that. And so one would think, okay, um, then patriarchy in a religious group. The opposite of that would be, you know, feminism or matriarchy, and not in a religious group. But it seems to me that does not happen. And I've met people who said they were recovering Jewish people, recovering Catholics, recovering Mormons, um, and I've met recovering alcoholics and recovering drug addicts, and they all were referring to it as some serious burden that they struggled with or are struggling with. You know, and I do believe that some religions can be a cult, but even some self-help movements are a cult. Even some food things are a cult. Some gyms are a cult. Just anybody who can do that personality, like a cult of personality kind of thing. A yoga center can be a cult. There's so many examples of that. A dance company can be a cult. Whoever can target their audience, target like the personality, um, and get them addicted, get them dependent. That to me, it seems to me, can easily become a cult, and there's many, countless of them out there. And it's only when basically people are murdered, um, or just extreme crimes against humanity on a large scale. It seems like that's the only time any consequences or any even discussion of it, any historical record. It only seems to happen when there's been, a serial rapist, or somebody who had embezzled from the whole center, or murders and stuff like that. And it's pretty scary, because if you're if you're alone in this world, and somebody's got a scam, like, there are predators out there waiting to find somebody who's a good person, because the predator only wants to deal with a good person. The predator only wants an honest, reliable, with a steady income. That's who the predators want. Because when you're reliable, steady, responsible, caring, you're a great victim for the predator, because you're very nice to the predator. Predators are not looking for other predators to prey upon. No, no, no. And the predators won't prey upon another predator, because that predator, that, like predator A is not going to go for predator B, because predator B knows the same game and knows how, is like predators are each other's kryptonite, it seems to me. I rarely have ever seen two predators going at it. Although I do think it's important to learn how to be the apex predator in your sphere. And I want to get back to the original topic of this double standard that I observe in 2022 among feminists, people who identify as feminists, or people who identify as liberal. And what it appears to me is that if you are female, And even now, that is that's a politically correct charged thing for anybody to say, because who are you to say that you're a female according to the LBGT pedo agenda, right? Because it seems like only they get to decide who's who matters. Um, but let us just pretend it's not 2022, and let's say it's like 2019. And it seems to me that so this person was talking about how they grew up in this fundamentalist religious, perhaps a cult. Maybe it wasn't a cult, but and where women's voices were brutally suppressed. So women were not allowed to open their mouths, and and that's abuse. I mean, that's not standard religion. That's not standard spirituality. In scripture of this country, of the United States, of the Bible, that's not like, the Bible does not say abuse uh, the female sex. So, um, and yet though, and that is the problem I find in any any place that's calling itself a church or a religion. There's so much bad personal problems that get exacerbated and play out in a a family or in a community. And I find that like, even in a like, when I was living in Montana, I tried different churches, but there was one church where it seemed like the that members of the community are not aware. They didn't have emotional awareness and didn't have the courage to speak up. And there were some sketchy people that were very established, important members of the community, that I think were not very safe. Like, I didn't feel safe around them. Like, there's some weird behaviors. And then again, I do find that that's kind of the problem with people who have been Christians lifelong, is they don't really have a lot of um like there's a term in the Bible, like iron sharpening iron. And it seems like everybody's just like, they don't set boundaries, they don't uh like speak up. And so there's like creepy people who just do their creepy thing, and you're just expected to tolerate creepy stuff. So yeah, that's wrong. Like, whether it's in Christianity or in Catholicism or in Jewish religions or in Aztec human sacrifice. I mean, like, the wrong things are wrong. You don't violate somebody's boundaries. And and if you see an adult violating a kid's boundaries, even if it's just um forcing them to do something that's just they're just done. Like a child is not an adult's slave. So anyways, I keep getting distracted. So I was interacting with a feminist, uh, somebody who looks like a feminist, who disclosed that they had experienced some trauma about, as a female, that females were not allowed to speak because of a supposed religious precept. And so then, as a result, everything is about expression. And that actually makes sense in the healing arts. Is like, okay, if something was broken, then you try to get that appendage back. You try to get that part of you that's been cut off, or you try to strengthen that ability. So, because it was decapitated, right? So that makes sense. But there is this notion, there is this narrative, this fantasy amongst the progressive liberal feminists that the only person that harmed, let's say, the women, and when she was growing up, that harmed her, people are only thinking it was the white male that harmed, the white heterosexual male that harmed them. But no, because who else was there? That the mother was there, the grandmother was there, the aunt was there, the reverend's wife was there. All these women were participating in patriarchy, and I do believe that patriarchy has been taken over by women, by this feminist women, and feminism is the new patriarchy. And yet there's so and it's so twisted. There's such little self-awareness of the progressive liberal feminist, because they're thinking only men can do anything wrong, only men do power trips, and they fail to hold the half of the entire church and half of the entire family, half of the entire community. They fail to take to hold them accountable, that all these women let this happen, and that somehow is just the men's fault. And that's not true. That's not right, and that's not accurate. And so fast forward to now, and so I was talking about a bad experience that happened to me, and and it was perpetuated all by females. And this liberal feminist was saying, she told me, she explained to me why that happened. She explained to me how that was acceptable in her mind in some ways, trying to rationalize it, make it acceptable, even though it was an unacceptable, unforgivable situation. And that is what I find of whether it's a white feminist or a person of color or whatever, is like they are making the rules, and the standards that they were holding for themselves do not get applied to other people, even though, like, I was young, I was a female, it's because if the perpetrator is a female, somehow that's then they can do no wrong. So it's as if, there's this weird, is it a cognitive dissonance, is it a Stockholm syndrome, that there's this notion that only women do good things throughout your whole life, and all trauma apparently was from a white heterosexual male that was patriarchal. And that's just simply not true. That's statistically not true. Females, feminists, do bad things. They commit crimes, and probably even more so. The more our gender roles and everything break down. So I just I just had a realization about this, and I just wanted to point out, like, that is extremely hypocritical, double standard. Just there's like this meme about like a liberal will support a black woman, but once the black woman is saying they don't want their baby vaccinated, then the liberal's mad at the black woman. And there's a whole list of other scenarios similarly, like you can get your support for identity politics from the liberal community, but if you think for yourself and do something outside of the prescribed imperative of the liberal community, you're thrown to the gutter. And I have found this in my personal experience with family. And I mean, so yeah, I will just say that. And so let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you've had any similar experiences and how you handle this. Because I've just been holding my tongue, because in 2000, I don't know, it was 2007, 2006, I learned about libertarianism, and I had learned about a particular candidate. And so it's all new to me. And I was talking a lot to people, and having a different opinions lost me a lot of friends. And um, so I do feel like it's important for us to discuss things with people. But so I mean, and I think we're also afraid of confronting anybody because it's such a disaster, um, because people get so angry. So nobody's talking. And I'm just wondering, like, how do we do this? I mean, I guess we can just do the Socratic method and ask the other person questions. Like, I guess if I were to do this conversation over again with the feminist, I would be like, so you're rationalizing what bad thing that happened to me. So could we apply that in your situation of what happened to you? And of course, the person would get upset because, well, a man did it, and um, and as if it's like it's worse that I mean, and it's weird because there's this compensatory entitlement. There's this weird entitlement that forms. And if we're going to get specific, the violation that happened to me was a lot worse. It was 100 times worse than what happened um, to that person in terms of their fundamental safety and whatnot. So it is a very strange dynamic to try to navigate, is like how to honestly communicate with others and how to be a good member of society. Because when we're all too afraid to talk honestly, and especially when there's like a communist takeover, a totalitarian takeover that is happening before our very eyes, where people have been suffocated, where people have been executed before their time, and sometimes in some ways really a terrible way to go. And there's documentation about this, and of course it's heavily suppressed. But like when something really really bad is happening across the board, um, and we're too cowardly to butt heads, uh, we get the civilization we deserve. We get the decline of civilization that we're getting right now. And I think we need to have these difficult conversations. And if somebody hates your guts forever, so be it. Uh, However, maybe they will begin to think. Maybe the conversation will shift something for them. And honestly, I am saying this all aloud because I'm trying to talk to myself because I'm not the best diplomatic communicator, because I get kind of blindsided in a heated conversation. I'm just not very skilled at debate or dialogue. Um, so, but I do think that a lot of people suffer similarly, and actually probably are worse than me, because so many people do not. I have no clue what taboo things they are thinking, and they'll never tell me. Like, people generally know how where I'm coming from, where I'm going. I'm a pretty open book, but I still feel like I keep too much to myself. So I don't know. Like, how much do you try to um what's the word? Like, get people involved, or how much do you challenge people? When do you challenge people? When it's a civic duty kind of a thing, because that's what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about like, oh, should you Are tulips better than roses? I mean, I'm not talking about something irrelevant. I'm talking about like we are experiencing the decline of civilization, the fundamentals of the family, the fundamentals of gender, of humanity. And we are actually on the edge of what appears to me the destruction of biology, like with this genetic modification injection, and it's going to go into the sewage. It seems like they're shedding, from skin and probably from air. So, and it's probably stuff is probably being sprayed. And of course, I don't have the exact data to prove this, but there is, if you look up what's called black goo, and that's just black GOO. And there's a guy, Harold von something or other. I can't remember his last name, but I think he's German or Austrian. And he's this expert in black goo. So there's countless videos on YouTube about him. So it's been this graphene oxide, these nanoparticles have been put into the air, water, food supply, medications, and who knows what else to alter humanity. And I wonder, I mean, maybe, I mean, it's I think, I mean, we're seeing so much decline of different species, bees and birds. Like here, I'm in Rapid City. I do not see many birds other than sparrows, starlings, pigeons. I think I've probably seen a couple robins maybe, but other places I've lived, there's more robins and just a wider variety of birds. I mean, there was a couple days when there was a migration when we were in this, it was a day or two of a migration. So there was all these birds in the trees. But other places I've lived, from Oregon to Montana, or when I was in Norfolk, Virginia, and there would be a lot of birds every day, just some sort of variety, and maybe every month I would see some, unusual bird. But here in Rapid, it's like sparrows, not even crows, I mean, I've probably seen one, a few crows, but not a whole lot. Anyways, my point is that there's something environmental, whether it's something sprayed like aluminum, like from chemtrails, or the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, now 5G electromagnetic radiation from smart meters and cell phone towers, and LED, the blue lights from street lights. Like that's all very toxic. It's toxic for humans. And of course, it's going to be toxic for birds. And those things are installed. And it started spring of 2020, where they were doing stealth installations of that new rollout, which had been done in Wuhan. It was the largest rollout. I'm avoid saying it because I'm trying to be careful. But every 10 feet, they had something installed to do facial recognition. And when this frequency is being emitted, and frequency moves air molecules, frequency moves oxygen molecules all the way. So when you have, 10, or whatever, hundreds of these devices that are doing facial recognition, zapping, 100 times or 1,000 times a second, right? So all these frequencies are going on. So eventually there's no air. Like people are oxygen deprived, and it's scientific, it's measurable. It's just not talked about because there's big financial interests, and I think they want to kill people. So, anyways, that's why people were dropping like flies. And what happens when you're in a prolonged suffocation, and, of course, impeding your breathing, of course, it reduces your oxygenation. So when you are suffocated, literally, when there's no oxygen, your body's not getting any oxygen, what happens? Organ failure. so there was videos about people bleeding from their eyes and whatever, and dropping dead. And I think and of course I'm not an expert. But when there's no oxygen, people are dropping dead on the street and bleeding from orifices. It seems to me that organ failure occurs. And so when your organs fail and you still have other parts pumping, right? But blood vessels are going to burst, and it's pretty gruesome. And it seems like that's kind of happening with this medical procedure that's very popular right now, where it's being suppressed. Um, so, anyways, I am digressing tremendously here, but yeah, how do you talk to people who are stuck in Stockholm syndrome with cognitive dissonance and Munchausen syndrome, where folks just don't they want their psychoses, and it's like a mental asylum that we're in, and somehow like a majority of people are or I happen to find myself in a mental asylum, and it's like, how do you navigate when you have found yourself in a mental institution, and this mental institution is your city? And I retreated to a place that I thought would be, like more um, down to earth and have more common sense. And to some degree it did, but it's still pretty hijacked by the mainstream narrative. Um, so yeah, where to go? Where is a safe place? I don't know. I mean, I just want Jesus to return, because there just doesn't seem to be options out there. But if you have any thoughts about how to talk to people who are having unreasonable double standards, um, who just want to have their way, I mean, I guess we choose our battles. What's the important battle? Um, yeah. So that is a question, but perhaps for another topic. So thank you so much for watching. God bless.